The Quiet American takes place in Vietnam and addresses the social tensions that partake in wartime. The narrator and main protagonist, Thomas Fowler, tells his story moving back and forth throughout the timeline. The novel opens with Fowler waiting at his apartment for Alden Pyle, an American intelligence operative working undercover at the Economic Aid Mission. Fowler realizes Pyle is late and decides to head out onto the street where he runs into his former Vietnamese lover, Phuong, and invites her back into his apartment. As Phuong prepares Fowler's opium pipe, a policeman comes and tells Fowler to go to the French Investigation Bureau. Once there, Fowler is asked by Inspector Vigot to recall the first time he met Pyle. Fowler recalls that he and Pyle first met at an outdoor cafe, but he decides not to tell the inspector. The inspector then confirms Fowler's suspicion of Pyle being dead, and without the inspector asking, Fowler tells the inspector that he is not guilty. He is then asked to confirm the body to be Pyle's, and then walks back to the apartment with Phuong, explaining what has happened to Pyle. We then go back in time to when Fowler and Pyle met at the outdoor cafe. Fowler explained Vietnam's current political issue, and Pyle brings up a writer's thesis explaining the need for a third force to turn the tables. Now in present time, Fowler suggests that Phuong should stay with him, and he accompanies her to gather her belongings from Pyle's place. Once they arrive, Fowler encounters Vigot searching the house, and upon greeting him, they begin to discuss who might have killed Pyle. Vigot admits that they are at war and he is not very concerned about Pyle's death. After collecting Phuong's belongings, Vigot threatens Fowler that they could deny any form allowing him to leave under the suspicion of Fowler being guilty, and Fowler tells him he has no plan of leaving Vietnam. An attaché named Joe interrupts them and tells them he sent a note to Pyle's family notifying them of his death, and Joe also admits that Pyle had special duties there in Vietnam. When Joe asks Fowler for more information about Pyle's death, Fowler is enraged and walks away. Fowler later recalls the first time Phuong met Pyle. Fowler and Phuong had joined Pyle in Joe's table at the Continental Hotel, where an American correspondent, Bill Granger, joined them and told them about how the Viet Minh have broken into the town of Phat Diem. Granger then wants to go to the district of Cholon to visit the House of 500 Women, and they plan to dine at the nearby chalet first. Fowler and Phuong arrive late, and Fowler finds Pyle surrounded by women. Feeling responsible for him, he drags him out of the club and into the chalet to dine with Phuong. Pyle ends up dancing with Phuong, and Phuong's sister, Miss Hay, meets Pyle and is attracted by Pyle's formality and politeness. Miss Hay suggests that Pyle visits them while Fowler is away on a trip up north. Fowler then wishes to rather not go on this dangerous trip. Later, a cabaret performance begins and Pyle laughs, even though he does not understand French. After a few acts, female impersonators begin to perform, and Pyle finds the subject not suitable for Phuong. We then join Fowler as he arrives in Phat Diem, the northern part of Vietnam. He learns that Viet Minh soldiers had attacked the town and destroyed everything. After days of fighting, they were able to retaliate enough to push them back to a perimeter around the town. He then joins a company of European soldiers and advances toward a place where the refugees gathered for safety. After crossing a canal full of dead bodies, Fowler finds himself mentally preparing to die. Shots are heard off in the distance, and the group finds the bodies of a woman and a young boy. Once they arrive to the officers' quarters, Fowler falls asleep and has an odd dream of Pyle dancing with an invisible figure. He then wakes up to find Pyle standing next to the door. Pyle proceeds to tell Fowler that he has fallen in love with Phuong and that he plans to be with her. Fowler, apparently not caring, pours some whiskey and they drink in silence. 3 weeks later, Fowler is in Hanoi and he attends a press conference. There, the colonel is pressured into revealing that the French now have only one helicopter because the United States have yet to deliver their promised resources. Once Fowler returns to the hotel, he has a telegram giving him a raise that requires him to return to England. While thoroughly thinking over his response, Fowler heads to a bar for a drink and finds the foreign officer Petrie, who, like him, prefers his adopted home,